That group of gray chi made people feel extremely uncomfortable, like an old man who was going to die, late and old, with little lifespan. Xianxia has reached a symbiotic relationship with it. How can it end up better in the future? Xianxia's face was as sinking as water. Although he really wanted to relieve the worries in front of the little senior sister, Xianxia had nowhere to start before he could understand the nature of the gray chi. Moreover, he also vaguely felt a miracle in this group of gray chi that he could not fathom. This kind of magical thing was unclear. When Xianxia spied on it, suddenly there was more understanding in his heart. After further investigation, nothing was found. It seems to reject Xianxia's spiritual mind. Xianxia's ability to break through to the Saint King realm in places like Tongshuan continent should be inseparable from this strange group of gray chi. This thing gave her the opportunity to realize a deeper level of heavenly law martial Tao, and gave her the abundant spiritual energy that she needed to break through and promote. It was closely related to her. Whether it is a blessing or a curse, no one can say for sure. Just when Xianxia was at a loss, the gray chi bound by the golden net clashed frantically again. This time it didn't do useless work as before, but instead burst directly into smaller gray chi pierced through the gap of the golden net. Xianxia didn't have time to stop it, so the group of gray chi escaped. Immediately, it fell downward at an extremely fast speed, and as soon as it made contact with the ground, it was out of Xianxia's sight. Xianxia's spiritual mind followed closely behind, but he still couldn't sense its existence. It just disappeared. Standing in place, Xianxia looked solemn, frowning. Apparently, he still have to wait for the little senior sister to wake up to get answers from her. He had some guesses in his mind, but he was not sure. Looking at Xianxia, who was sleeping, Xianxia hugged her up, put her on the bed, leaned over and kissed her on the forehead, gently combed her forehead hair before leaving this secret room. After a few breaths, thousands of miles away, the ruins of the Battle Soul Palace. Xianxia stood in the void. Looking down below, the spiritual mind spread like a tide. Familiar traces of life were unobstructed under his investigation, and they were like jumping notes printed into his consciousness, composing a heartbeat movement. He grinned and smiled. He felt the warmth in his heart that he had never felt in decades, and he used spiritual mind to send messages to all his relatives and friends. I'm back. Single quote. Just like yesterday's 9 heavens holy land. The ruins of the Battle Soul Palace immediately rioted, and rays of light rose from their respective positions of meditating and retreat, and rushed towards the place where Xianxia was. Everyone was so excited that they met halfway through, and they were all inquiring about each other to confirm whether Xianxia had returned. After arriving at the place and seeing Xianxia standing there, everyone dared to confirm the authenticity of this news. Tu Feng, Tang Yuxian, Ku Gaoyi, Yingzhu. These blood servants who had fought side by side with Xianxia in the battle for the succession of the prodigy arrived in the first batch. Everyone trembled with excitement and shouted the name of the young master and Bao. Yang Wei, the eldest son of the Yang family, Zhang Zhao, the eldest son Yang Tai, and the eldest son Yang Kong. All the brothers gathered together and yelled and embraced Xianxia, and they confided their parting brothers for decades. Haha, you bastard, you have been away for so many years, you want to kill me. Huo Xingchen, the contemporary patriarch of the Huo family, laughed loudly and appeared on the side. They haven't seen him for decades. This surviving central capital man at the time seems to be middle-aged, but the precipitation of years did not make him look old, but made him appear a kind of vicissitudes of maturity. This temperament is inconsistent with his cynicism. Combined, it becomes more and more attractive. Next to Huo Xingchen is Chu Yimeng. With tears in her beautiful eyes, she bit her red lips, looking at Xianxia in disbelief, let alone saying something, as if she was afraid that when she says something the dream will be broken. Brother Huo, Miss Chu. Xianxia nodded lightly and looked calm. Huo Xingchen chuckled, glanced at Chu Yimeng, and sighed constantly in his heart. He saw something from Xianxia's address to Chu Yimeng. Dong Qinghan and Dong Qingjun also came, and high cousins yelled, making the atmosphere more lively. Yang Kai suddenly cast his gaze to not far away, looking at the 3 rays of light that were approaching here quickly, and hurriedly stepped forward to greet them over there. The light escaped, revealing 3 figures. The first person, divine poise and sage-like features, fluttering clothes, followed by a man and a woman. The men's figure show a mighty stature, and the women is petite and exquisite. Yang Kai stood in front of them, bowed and said softly, "Master." Ling Taishu nodded and laughed cheerfully. Okay, you're finally back. Father, mother. Yang Kai looked at the 2 standing behind Ling Taishu again. Young fourth master, an Iron Man, opened his mouth at this moment. He didn't know what to say, but quietly wiped the corner of his eyes, and nodded. Your mother miss you very much? It's okay not to say this. When he heard this, Dong Suzu cried out like a child who had suffered a lot of grievances. She stepped forward and hugged Yang Kai, slapped Yang Kai with her jade hand, choking and crying, can't say anything at all. Seeing her doing this, Yang Kai smiled. Decades have passed, and his mother is still with this childish character, and has not changed, which makes him finally relieved. You guy, what exactly is your cultivation level now? Why can't I snoop it out at all? Huo Xingchen walked up with a grin, and went around Yang Kai, screaming in surprise. Everyone was taken aback, and they all released their spiritual mind and scanned Yang Kai's body. However, nothing was achieved, and everyone's spiritual mind sank like a stone to the sea, without the slightest ripple. This discovery made everyone look suspicious, and they subconsciously felt that Yang Kai's current cultivation realm had already surpassed the level of Tongshuan continent, and they were all shocked. Void return stage. Yang Kai let go of Dong Suzu and patted her on the shoulder as a comfort. He didn't know how to explain to everyone the level of the void return stage. He groaned and said, well, it means surpassing to great realm from saint stage. There was a sound of cold breath. Saint stage is already the peak of the Tongshuan continent, and above it is the Saint King realm. Throughout the ages, only the great demon god has reached this realm. But now, Yang Kai has surpassed the realm of this legend and reached the next level. Chu Yimeng's beautiful eyes dimmed suddenly, and her heart was bitter. She suddenly discovered that she and Yang Kai seemed to be separated by thousands of mountains and rivers. He stood high in the clouds, but she could only stand on the ground, looking up, and could no longer reach it. Huo Xingchen pursed his dry lips, gave a dry smile, and glanced at Chu Yimeng, not knowing how to comfort her. Although Miss Chu has good aptitude, she has no worries about cultivation resources after she came to Tongshuan continent, but until now, she has only reached the 3rd order transcendent stage, and has not yet reached the level of true Yuan. The gap is too big. The outside world has a lot of unimaginable excitement. I will tell you another day. Go back first. Yang Kai laughed. Go back, go back. Fourth Master Yang reacted and yelled quickly. A group of people rushed to the ruins of the Battle Soul Palace. In the main hall, everyone was sitting around, all looking at Yang Kai, listening to him talk about the strange and wonderful things in the star territory. Boy, do you think there are countless cultivation stars in that vast star territory? Ling Taishu looked unbelievable. Yes, I alone have passed 6 or 7 cultivation stars. In addition, there are some mineral stars and medicinal stars suitable for mining minerals and cultivating herbs. Yang Kai nodded gently. This is incredible. Huo Xingchen's mouth opened wide that you could almost squeeze a fist. In the star territory, Saint Stage is considered very weak. Dong Qinghan asked timidly. After decades of absence, this guy is as fat as ever. Well, he's a bit fatter than before. Very weak. Yang Kai nodded solemnly. In the star territory, most cultivators can cultivate to the saint stage, and those with a good aptitude can even reach this realm in the 20s or 30s. Everyone looked at each other with a guilt. There is only one person sitting here who is a saint stage, that is Ling Taishu, the Lord of the High Heaven Pavilion. Others, such as Chu Yimeng with the best aptitude, are no more than the 3rd order transcendent stage. As for Fatty Dong and Huo Xingchen, they have just broken through to transcendent stage. They are almost 50 years old. They used to be complacent about their achievements, but now when Xianxia talks about the situation in the Star Territory, they are all a little ashamed and want to find a hole to drill down. The frog at the bottom of the well could only see the sky as big as the well. Ling Taishu sighed deeply. Master doesn't have to be so modest. The martial artist in the Star Territory can achieve this kind of achievement just because the world's spiritual energy there is rich. Tongshuan continent is really not suitable for cultivating martial arts. If you have the same cultivating conditions, everyone, there is no problem breaking into the saint stage, Xianxia said solemnly. That being said, how difficult is it to enter the Star Territory? Ling Taishu slowly shook his head and laughed at himself. Don't tell me, Master, I used to join forces with Meng Wuya 10 years ago to broke through to Star Territory. But the two of us rushed out of Tongshuan continent for less than 100,000 miles, and we were forced to retreat. There seemed to be a kind of magical power in the Star Territory. If the flesh body cannot meet the requirements, you can't walk in it at all. The power of the starry sky. Xianxia nodded lightly, and suddenly grinned again. But don't worry, Master, I am coming back this time to bring you all to the Star Territory, to the better cultivation star. In the hall, the expressions of everyone cheered up, and they all looked at Xianxia in surprise. Really? How to bring us? How many of us can you take away? Can you take us all? Everyone asked in a rush, and they were obviously interested in the excitement that Xianxia told them. They could not wait to leave this backward continent soon and go to a place with more spiritual energy that day, just like Xianxia, to meet a wider audience. Wonderful and charming world. To be continued.